I'd like to call to order the Avalon City Council meeting of August 16th. Will you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? And begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if we could please have a few moments of silence for Shirley Burkham and Chuck Adargo. Please be seated. And when you're ready, the roll call, please.
Councilmember De La Rosa?
Here.
Councilmember Lavelle?
Here.
Councilmember Schickling?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Ponce?
Here.
Mayor Marshall?
Here. Okay, are there any announcements or written communications?
No, ma'am, we haven't received any written communications.
Okay, you're good as well.
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Okay, department head reports.
Good evening, Bob Greenlaw, Director of Public Works. 2 items for you tonight. For the Green Pier, bids were received for the repair of the Green Pier for the broken piles. Staff is currently reviewing those bids and will bring forward a recommendation at the next regularly scheduled City Council meeting.
How many did you get?
2.
2. Okay, well, it's better than 1.
Known bidders, too.
Oh, okay, good.
And people that have worked on the island before.
Nice.
Infrastructure project review. So on September 13th, at a special City Council meeting, staff will review the city's capital improvement program and provide a status of the current and future projects. Additionally, projects may be added at that time to build out our 10-year CIP. So keep that in mind if there's any other projects that you don't see in the CIP that could be added. We may not add current money to them, but at least we're keeping our focus on that. So, and that's the goal of it, really, is to look at the projects as well as define what we'll be focusing on in our CIP, our capital improvement program, for the next decade. Any questions?
Where can I find that?
That's going to be, our CIP is within our budget document right now.
Okay.
And it's adopted with our budget, and we are trying to make it more robust as every budget that we adopt. Okay, and it can change at every budget too. Okay, and mid-year if needed. Right now, when we went through the budget, we went through the projects, but we didn't go and do a detailed look. And also, since we have some new council members, we want to provide a status of where the projects are and where we're heading.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, Orrin Karstafen, Harbor Master. Just a quick report on the numbers here. Since my last report, August 2nd, Patrol moored 1,182 boats for a total of 4,722 nights. Patrol responded to 1 minor boat collision, assisted Baywatch 4 times, responded to 4 medical calls, warned and advised 41 persons of municipal code violations, responded to 3 violations within the marine protection area, and provided assistance to 88 public assists, which were included the towing and the mooring wrap-ups that we deal with. And on another note, I also have a proclamation I'd like to read to you for Ray Boyd regarding the July 23rd boat fire.
Great.
Ray, if you could come forward. A proclamation of the City Council of the City of Avalon honoring the heroism of Ray Boyd. Whereas on July 23rd, 2022, a boat fire was reported to the Avalon Harbor Patrol, and whereas Officer Ray Boyd was the first on scene and found the 33-foot Yorktown sloop with fire in the main companion way at the stern of the boat, and whereas Ray could see that the forward porthole V-berth area had a hand with 3 fingers showing through the small opening, he quickly boarded the boat, making his way forward to the hatch to try to free the person who was trapped inside. And whereas a broken mast had been tied down with multiple lines on top of the only escape hatch available. Ray cut free those lines and pushed the mast clear in order for the hatch to free to itself, but had to break the hatch in pieces in order to create a hold for escape, where he was able to pull the gentleman from the cabin area, and whereas both were taken to the rescue dock for evaluation by awaiting medics and found to be unharmed. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Avalon hereby recognizes the heroic actions and selfless courage of Harbor Patrol Officer Ray Boyd, who utilized his training and did not hesitate to respond in saving a life. Dated the 16th day of August 2022. Thank you
Excellent.
for your service, Ray.
Yeah, thank you so much. Anything you'd like to say, Ray?
I would like to say there's no I in team. There was many qualified patrolmen that day that gave me the confidence to have success with that rescue. Other agencies, City Fire, County Fire, Baywatch Avalon, I think we all worked swimmingly together. Lastly, that day I think we had a qualified, patrolman and a properly staffed department, and I attribute that to the success of this rescue.
Thank you, that's very nice. Yeah.
Thank you, Ray.
Okay, that's a tough act to follow.
I was named in that, we were named in that, so I'll follow him. No, that was a great job by Ray. Outstanding job by everyone there.
Yeah.
Mike Valagria, Fire Chief. Been busy the last couple weeks still. The guys are running a lot of calls night and day, even when you're sleeping. They're protecting the town. We've had a couple of times we've had to call back more people. We've had some calls in the hills, but the paramedics now have an ambulance. When there's a call in the hills, they take it out, so we're not taking any more resources out of town. So that's been good.
That's great.
I'd like to give a shout out to our mechanics who caught a very serious potential hazard on our main fire engine. They took it up there for a little leak, and they did a thorough assessment of it and found a pretty significant leak that could have possibly caused the brakes to fail on our engine.
Oh.
And stayed extra that day, came in early the next morning, had a part on the helicopter, and had us back in service.
Great.
But while our main engine was out, of course, we got that one call that I don't like to hear, fire at Edison with smoke showing on the east side. Not a good call when your main engine's down, but luckily it was just a small thing contained to one spot, and it pretty much put itself out on its own.
Whew, yeah, that is close. Awesome.
Other than that, on the code enforcement side, I'm sure you've seen the boots. We do have letters out, and we are in the process of we have started the process to get those cars off the island, but we have to wait so many days because of the municipal code. But
Yeah.
we are aware of it. I know it's a pain, but people see them, and hopefully they come up and they're getting their stickers, and hopefully we're gonna get some more off the island after this one, after the ones that are booted now. I believe there's 4 of them.
Well, it's nice, the one that's in front of our house, when people are staying in the vacation rentals, I just tell them they can sit there since they don't have any chairs outside. So they're putting them to good use. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council Member, Sergeant Grayson Klein, Avalon Sheriff Station. Since the last City Council meeting, we've handled 104 calls for service, 89 observations, which is the deputies out doing proactive action, not responding to a call, but doing it on their own. We've had 14 arrests. 8 of them were for drunken public. 4 of them were for domestic violence misdemeanor. 1 was for a domestic violence felony, and 1 for an unlicensed driver. There's been 23 citations issued, varying from stop signs to curfew violations to open container. And the guys are out on the street every day on cruise ship as well as on the weekends. We're hiring extra staff Friday and Saturday into the evening and early morning hours. I'm keeping 3 deputies out in the field and seem to be working well this summer.
I know we all appreciate that, and I also appreciate the detail in your report.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any
Any
questions?
comments or questions?
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Matt Baker, Finance Department, Evening Council. Just a quick update on visitor-driven revenues. Through June, TOT for the month was up 5%. Again, June of last year was up 50%, so to be up 5% from that is still quite the accomplishment. So to finish out the year, TOT is going to be a record high, exceeding 8.5 million. Prior to COVID, we were around 5.5 million, just to kind of put that into scale. Cross-channel wharfage, June was a strong month, up 5%. Early reporting in August suggests it'll be a good month. I don't know if it'll be, up to the level June was, but it still looks like it'll be a pretty strong summer, especially compared to where we had budgeted. I fully expect July to exceed where we had planned budget-wise. So
Great.
all positive news.
Yeah, very positive. Thank you.
Hey, Matt, there was a question or an email that came through from the county assessor this afternoon. Do you
Yep.
know what the percentage or dollar amount is? If you can, I don't know if you got that email as well or if I can forward it to you, but
Yeah.
was just curious to know the amount he listed was quite significant, and it seems that the amount we get from that amount is not as significant.
So the county did issue an update on what the total assessed value of all the properties are in town, and that number was just over $1 billion. That's the value of the properties. The general property tax levy is 1%. So 1% of the 1 billion would be 10 million. And then of that 10 million, we share it with the state, the county, the school district, as well as some other agencies. And so I believe our share comes in to the $1.5 million range for property tax. So it's how you can start with a value of a town of $1 billion, 1% tax to the 10 million, and then once you share it with all the agencies, that's how that all worked out.
So that makes me want to, on our tax bill, I think my property tax is actually very minimal, but it's our other fees, our fees that we take.
So that is true. On your property tax bill, you will see sewer, saltwater, and solid
Right.
waste assessments, and so those are in addition to the property tax.
Right.
The property tax is a general fund revenue that comes to the city and can be spent on various programs. We do use the county assessor to facilitate the billing of our sewer, saltwater, and solid waste assessments. We pay a very nominal fee. I want to say 25 cents an assessment, to where we couldn't even mail out invoices for as
Exactly.
cheap as we're able to do it
Yeah.
through the county. So it's definitely a great service for the city to be able to add our user fees to the property tax bill. I know it does create some confusion of what's a tax versus what's a user charge, but it's a huge benefit of the city to do it that way rather than invoicing separately for trash and sewer.
Oh, heck yeah, because people are going to pay their property tax, right?
That's
So,
the goal.
We'd have to hunt down people if they decided not to pay their sewer, saltwater, or trash.
It's
Yeah.
a huge advantage to my department to be
Yeah.
able to use the county in that way, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Other questions? Okay. Mhm.
Good evening, council members. David Hart, Community Service. A couple of quick reminders. We had flag football signups are going on, as well as the new sessions of karate classes, and you can sign up on City of Avalon's recreation.cityofavalon.com page. We have also we're coming to our last 2 weeks of day camp, and the day campers will be going on to the Cyclone next Wednesday to Two Harbors to kind of have an end of summer party out at Two Harbors. And then we have our Primetimer events. Wednesday, August 24th, we will have our drive-in bingo up at the Hermit's Gulch Campground, and that's only $5. You'll get a sandwich as well, either ham and cheese or a tuna salad sandwich, where you'll have bingo and prizes along with the fun. And then we will have our end of summer Primetimer event, where we will take the Cyclone as well to Two Harbors. That will be on September 14th. That will only be $15 per person. We will have games there, water aerobics, and a scavenger hunt for all the good fun for our prime timers on September 24th. You can sign up with myself at City Hall, or you can respond to one of the emails that I send out to the prime timers. I would like to thank the Island Company for working with us and discounted prices for those trips, as well as for many of the prizes they've given throughout beach bingo and fishing derby and for our day campers.
Right.
We are, to fulfill some of those activities that we are doing, we are looking to hire more recreation aid workers as well as recreation leaders. We desperately do need a recreation leader, somebody who can help with running the day-to-day activities of the day of the youth sports, as well as the adult programming that we're trying to develop. A lot of these cannot happen without a good, strong recreation leader. So if you know somebody who is looking for a fun, exciting job that impacts the community in a positive way, please send them our way. We much appreciate that. Last two things on my agenda here. I have, we're working with Austin Henry and Avalon Smart Homes, along with Principal Pagero at the school, to find a home for 250 backpacks that he has raised, along with school supplies, to get them to some of our more kids in need. I've also reached out and have started working with Leticia Ehorn. Some of you might know she's a wedding planner on the island, as well as a wedding planner off the island, used to be a resident of the island, as well with Principal Pagero, because she has donated clothing from major like Macy's and Michael's and all these different department stores to get some of our high school kids extra clothing to start out the school year. So look out for some more information on both of those. That information will be coming out within the next couple of weeks. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, is the rec leader, is that a full-time job or part-time?
It's a part-time.
Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
you're welcome.
For the backpacks, you guys don't have a set date yet when you're gonna distribute?
Excuse me?
You don't have a set date on when you're gonna distribute the backpacks?
No, we do know that we will have that within the next couple of weeks. She's just, Ms. Pagero is solidifying the form based on the kids who are back at school, who are, I believe it's Title I of the free lunch students. And so we will have those out. We'll set a date, and more than likely, according to Ms. Pagero, we will do something. They'll have a orientation day, and on that orientation day, we'll get those out to those kids. For the clothing, we're looking more sometime in September for that, because she's just starting to get those donations coming in right now. So it'll be in September when we'll be able to get some clothing out to some of the kids.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's
All right,
wonderful.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. City manager report?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, just wanted to report this week we had a meeting with the crew here in Council Chambers from the, I guess, ABC for the new television series Avalon that will start, and they'll be on the island starting September 6th through the 9th. Those 4 days following Labor Day. They laid out the general daily schedule that they're going to have, and their goal and our goal is to minimize the impact on the residents as much as possible while they're filming. There will be some impact though, so we do ask for patience from everybody, but they are working with our staff, and we appreciate that, and Jim set that meeting up, so we do appreciate the communication. And we will work through it, and the fire chief will be involved in any of those circumstances where they're going to have cast or crew that might be blocking roadways or parking along. But they're going to be filming in a number of different locations through those 4 days, both day and night. So as any details come along, we'll try to get that information out so people can be aware, so we don't get too many questions of what's going on. But just wanted to bring that to your attention. I will have a brief presentation, explanation of the draft of the noise ordinance that's before you tonight when we get to that on the agenda. I won't address that now, but we'll address it when we get to it and kind of just walk through the changes and the reason for some of those changes and what we're trying to accomplish with that legislation. And then finally, I just wanted to congratulate and thank Ray Boyd for his service that he was recognized for tonight. I know that's just part of his job in his mind, but we do appreciate that. It's nice to recognize our staff when we get that opportunity. Thank you.
Very nice. City Attorney?
Yes, I wanted to brief the council on AB 2449. This is the Brown Act legislation. It looks like it's going to pass. It's not what we wanted, but here's what it does. It does maintain the current requirement during a period of a public emergency where you have to make findings every 30 days to continue to meet remotely like you're doing tonight. It also provides another way to do it. And so with or without the emergency, what it does allow is if there's a quorum of the council at one physical location, if another council member cannot attend that location, that council member can ask permission of the council to attend remotely, and the council then has to act upon that request to attend the meeting remotely. So if people are on vacation, they have issues that they cannot come. There's a list of about 7 exceptions where you can ask the council for approval. The council then goes ahead and approves that. But this legislation only allows that to happen 20% of the time of the year. So basically, if you take this, you use up all your exemptions, it's still about 2 months of council meetings is the most that council member can miss in person. So they're still being amended, but that's the current state of it. So again, we either you can continue to meet remotely if you make the findings every 30 days, or alternatively, if you can't attend a meeting and you want to attend without having to post at your location, you have to ask council for permission, and the council can vote on that either at that meeting or at the meeting prior to that.
Can you do it by phone, or does it have to be by Zoom?
Oh, you can do it. It has to be a two-way open communication, except, I'm sorry, if the council member is calling in, it has to be visible. You have to be visible and audio at all times. So you can't turn your camera off.
So you have to Zoom, okay.
You have to Zoom yes.
Okay.
Or some other, Microsoft Teams or something, but you have to keep your camera on at all times.
Okay, thank you.
And video, and also you have to identify if there are any members, if there are any people over 18 years old, 18 years or older with you or in the room, you have to note that on the record.
Huh, interesting. Okay. All right, thank you. Council member reports? Me? Sure.
Okay, I got nothing.
Okay.
I'm still new.
That's good enough. Lisa?
I had 2 calls, both regarding broadband internet service with members of the team from the Gateway Cities COG. Encouraging discussions, nothing to report.
Okay, that's all right.
If anybody has like 30 million they just want to throw my way, I'll take it. Thank you. Things out there, Megan.
Somebody was going to try to contact Elon Musk's office.
Do.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yes, I did want to just announce that there is an affordable connectivity program. Lisa, you probably heard about this, but they are starting to open up for applications. So what you do have to apply, but what you could be eligible for is up to $30 discount per month on home internet, up to $75 discount per month for household on qualifying tribal lands, and a one-time discount up to $100 for a computer or tablet. And so the website for you to be able to go apply is www.internetforallnow.org/apply today.
Uh-oh.
And I do also have a proclamation.
Yes, thank you.
This proclamation is to recognize September as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in the city of Avalon. Of course, it's August, but we do have our next council being the late September, so we're doing it now. So whereas the American Cancer Fund for Children and Kids Cancer Connection report cancer is the leading cause of death by disease among U.S. children between infancy and age 15. This tragic disease is detected in more than 16,000 of our country's young people every year. An estimated 400,000 children and adolescents are diagnosed globally with cancer each year. And whereas 1 in 5 of our nation's children loses his or her battle with cancer, many infants, children, and teens will suffer from long-term effects or comprehensive treatment, including secondary cancers. And whereas founded nearly 30 years ago by C.M. Firestein, a member of philanthropic Max Factor Cosmetics family, the American Cancer Fund for Children, Kids Cancer Connection, and Lions Club International are dedicated to helping these children and their families. And whereas the American Cancer Fund for Children and Kids Cancer Connection provide a variety of vital patient psychosocial services to children undergoing cancer treatment at Children's Hospital Los Angeles, City of Hope, Madel Children's Hospital at UCLA, LA County USC Medical Center, Harbor UCLA Medical Center, Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, as well as hospitals throughout the country, thereby enhancing the quality of life of these children and their families. And whereas the American Cancer Fund for Children and Kids Cancer Connection also sponsor toy distributions, educational programs, sailing programs, pet assisted therapy, KCC Supercar Experience, and hospital celebration in honor of a child's determination and bravery to fight the battle against childhood cancer. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Mayor and the City of Council of the City of Avalon do hereby declare September 2022 as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month and encourage all citizens to increase awareness to support the fight against childhood cancer.
Great, thank you. Okay, Michael?
I did attend Cal City's LA Division installation dinner meeting last Thursday and was introduced as Landslide Michael. Our city election was the talk of the night, but it was fun. And we got a little swag for everybody, and it was nice to be able to meet in person for me, first time in 2.5 years, and 2.5 years to actually, before I've been in a Target in person, Nirvana, but anyways, but it was good. It was good to meet up with fellow council people.
Awesome. I really don't have anything to report, so we'll go right into oral communication. This is an opportunity for members of the community to speak on items that are not on the agenda. You'll be limited to 2 minutes and no action will be taken. So Jim's popping up, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just wanted to take a few minutes to remind everybody that we are resuming the Catalina concert series this Saturday evening at Wrigley Stage. Music will begin at 8, Beer Garden opens at 7, and this time we will be featuring Tony Sirachi, who will be performing as the Highwayman, which is in honor of the more famous Highwaymen, who we all know for their long-standing outlaw country movement, including a guitarist who will be on stage who was Johnny Cash's guitarist. The Catalina concert series is once again being brought to the island by the Exceptional Music Company and is presented by Catalina Island Vacation Rentals. Catalina Canyon Inn, Catalina Island Inn, Hamilton Pacific, Catalina Boatyard, Yamaha Corporation of America, El Galleon, Spectrum Sports, Kona Brewing Company, the Ranch Rider Spirits Company, Blue Water Avalon, The Lobster Trap, Avalon Freight Services, Catalina Beverage Company, Cutwater Spirits, Catalina Flyer, Catalina Express, IEX Helicopters, Avalon Lions Club, Avalon Seafood are all sponsors, and I mentioned the Beer Garden proceeds will be split between Avalon Rotary Club and the concert series, so you can support 2 good causes with 1 purchase of a beverage, and we hope to see you all there.
Just a quick question, with all of those sponsors, does that fund that one night? I mean, is it,
So that's for the entire series,
And so-
and different sponsors play different roles over the course of that. So, Yamaha Music is a long ago donor of greatly discounted equipment that continues to have a life for us year after year and concert after concert. Lobster Trap, generally offers up some basic equipment for running the bar, and El Galleon is refrigeration because it's close to the stage, and it's just sort of a patchwork of all of that, and truly illustrative of the village with which we all gather to do things on this island all the time.
excellent, that's a lot of coordination.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. We have a presentation. Is it gonna, oh, here we go. This is Stephanie Pace Brown.
Well, good evening, members of council. Do you want me to, are we ready to start?
Sure.
Well, it's nice to be with all of you. I, of course, wish that I was there with you in person in your beautiful destination. It's been a pleasure to work with Love Catalina Island on this pretty ambitious survey project. And I wanted to acknowledge and thank all of the community members who participated in filling out the survey. Go to the next slide. The survey was made available for members of the community to participate from April 14th through June 6th of this year. That's a pretty extended window, but it was left open for so long to give as many people as possible the opportunity to participate. Our company, Smari Insights, developed the survey questionnaire and programmed it on our platform and posted it on a website. And then the availability of the survey was promoted by Love Catalina and distributed through a variety of methods, including a postcard that was delivered to all Avalon post office boxes. So in total, we had 180 surveys completed. And for a community your size, that's really terrific. That's pretty close to numbers that we see in metropolises and very large communities. I'm going to go through this report pretty quickly. So please, interrupt me if you want me to go into more depth on any one topic. Next slide, please. So you can see here that, we've had participation across a lot of different categories, demographic and also resident and employment statuses. It's kind of unusual for a survey like this to have a scope of including residents, tourism partners, and members. But I thought it was really great to see that your community sees this as, everyone's in it together, and that it was able to address a lot of different issues and gather opinions from many different types of participants. Next slide, please. So I'm going to kind of go through some top line findings and insights, and then we'll walk through the detail on these findings. First of all, we found that people who live and work on Catalina Island are really proud of their community. 9 in 10 give the island 5 stars on a number of attributes, including its natural scenery. Some of the attributes that scored lower were the cost of living and housing. The use of housing for visitors is seen as contributing to the lack of affordability and is creating pressure on staffing local businesses, with 59% of Love Catalina's members unable to fill vacant positions. And residents agree that tourism is good for the community. 75% strongly agree. And that's a very strong result, pretty unusual among the surveys that we've done on this topic. Stakeholders see that the value of tourism promotion, and they agree that the investment of TOT funds to attract visitors is good for the community. And we'll go through the detailed results as we move forward. Next slide, please. Members and non-members agree that the mission of Love Catalina reflects the work of the organization, and there is also agreement that the vision aligns. Member satisfaction is extraordinarily high. 60% of members are very satisfied with their overall benefits and the value they receive for their dues. We saw actually a mean score of 4.0 or higher is what we consider a target score on every aspect of membership. The highest marks were given for reporting, quality of promotion, staff leadership, and COVID response. And members also gave high ratings for the value they received from events. And in kind of an unusual twist, members of the community who were not members were also invited to rate and give their opinions on the events that are made available by Love Catalina Island. Next slide, please. Most members report business levels are equal to or higher than pre-pandemic levels. That's probably no surprise to you, seeing that TOT collections that are at an all-time high. They're also optimistic about this year. Staffing levels are lower than before the pandemic due to difficulty filling vacant positions. Members see several factors as important to recovery, including transportation, the cost of visiting, domestic travelers, and workforce. But when asked to select one most important factor, the cost of living was selected by a third of the respondents. Then we showed the advertising that's been done by Love Catalina and asked participants if they've seen it. 82% had recalled seeing the digital advertising prior to taking the survey, and the response to that advertising was positive. Next slide, and you can go to the next one. So first, we'll look at community sentiment. The community is proud of Catalina Island, as I said. Length of residency is not a factor. We saw that by years of residency, we have similarly high levels of pride in the community. Also, although we saw stronger sentiment with older participants, overall it was high in every age category. Next slide, please. Here you're seeing in these bar charts the ratings. The blue bars that are coming from left to right are 5 stars. So we asked people to rate Catalina Island on a number of different attributes, assigning 1 through 5 stars. And so the things that rate the highest are, no surprise, it's the natural scenery, the ease of getting around, and friendly people. Closer to the bottom with lower ratings are the quality of education is at the bottom of this chart. The cost of living is affordable to me. The quality of health care and the roads and sidewalks are well maintained. And I'll tell you that in every survey we've done, nobody anywhere is happy with the quality of sidewalks and roads. Next slide, please. Next, now we'll look at attitudes about tourism. Residents overwhelmingly agreed that tourism is good for the community of Catalina Island. 75% strongly agree. So you see that here in blue, and the green are the somewhat agree. So we can see that we have very few members of the community who disagree or think that tourism is not good for the island. Next slide, please. 9 in 10 community members agree that tourism supports independent businesses and jobs. More than 75% agree that there are more festivals and businesses to enjoy because of tourism. And a majority agree that tourism supports well-paying jobs. This is an unusual finding for your community, and generates taxes that build amenities that make Catalina Island a better place to live. So in these bar charts, we're seeing at the bottom, the darker blue are those who strongly agree. The lighter blue or the gray is somewhat agree. And so from left to right, we're seeing taxes from tourism builds amenities, supports well-paying jobs, makes the community a nicer place to live, supports businesses that add to my enjoyment of living on the island. More festivals are available because of tourism. Tourism supports independent businesses, helps small businesses, and supports jobs that people need. Next slide, please.
Stephanie, on those that are on the left of that slide, did they provide any additional input? Do you have comments that you can share with us after the report?
We didn't ask an open end on this particular question. There are some open ends that are supplied at the end of the report on different questions. But one thing that we look at is, we look for the data to tell us relationships, and you had such a high level of pride and such a high level of support that there were very few people, it was hard. We didn't find any patterns to suggest that there's any pocket of dissatisfaction anywhere.
Thank you.
As I said before, the cost of housing is among the biggest concerns, and second homes and vacation rentals are seen as major contributors to the cost of housing. Less than half of the community thinks that the number of visitors is having a negative impact and draining city and county resources. So again, here we're seeing those who strongly agree, but these are opposite. So what we want is that, it's positive to see disagreement in the chart. So we want to see more red. So left to right, the number of people visiting the area has a negative impact on the quality of life in the area. So we're seeing that more than half disagree with that statement. Visitors are a drain on county, city and county resources. Again, more than half disagreeing. Locals often or sometimes can't enjoy the community because of all the people visiting. The island is not as clean as it should be because there are too many visitors. Too many visitors are straining infrastructure, and second homes and vacation rentals are contributing to housing costs. Okay, next slide, please. Here we're looking at the perceptions around the value of using TOT tax for tourism promotion. And we see that there's strong support for this investment. More than 2/3 of stakeholders agree that the investment to attract visitors is good for the community. We also asked survey participants to rate their agreement for tourism promotion before and after seeing a statement that the TOT is paid by overnight visitors. And being exposed to that statement made little difference in their rating, so that suggests that there's an overall appreciation and understanding for how it works among your community members. Next slide, please. The community overwhelmingly agrees that tourism promotion fuels the economy and is a good use of some of the TOT revenue, and they believe it's important to continue to advertise the island for visitation. We see in a lot of places where we do this, even tourism-centered communities, that there's sometimes is a feeling that, well, if we stopped advertising, people would still come, to visit. That's not the case. Your community recognizes that it's important to continue to advertise to fuel the local economy and to support small businesses. More than 2/3 of participants think that it is not wasteful to use tax dollars to promote tourism, and fewer than half think that visitors would come if tourism advertising were discontinued. Next slide, please. We can go next, great. So then we looked at, agreement with the mission and vision of Love Catalina, and we found that more than 3/4 of members agree that Love Catalina's mission reflects the work of the organization, and they were shown the mission in the survey. Most non-members also agree, and very few participants overall disagreed. Next slide. The majority also agree that the organization is doing work that aligns with its vision. The sentiment is a little bit weaker than agreement with the mission, and 1/4 of non-members disagree that Love Catalina's work represents its vision. And the comments would indicate that those who disagree the disconnect is really with the conservation and water use aspects of the vision, and so communications on what Love Catalina is doing in these areas might need to be strengthened. Okay, next. And next. In this next section, we're looking at members' satisfaction. Again, this slide is just showing that there were participation across different categories of members, including length, different roles and responsibilities within organizations, and the type of businesses that were represented. Okay, next, please. So members report extraordinarily high satisfaction. Members rated their satisfaction on a 5-point scale. We would consider a rating that's 4.0 or better to be excellent. And you can see here that in every category, Love Catalina met that benchmark. So we can go to the next slide. Then members and non-members both rated the value of the events that are produced by Love Catalina. The events also received high marks from members. They have less value for non-members. It's unsurprising that there might be less familiarity among the general population. And only Pride fireworks and fixers scored below the target mean of 4.0, and my understanding is that the survey was conducted before the 2022 events for Pride and fireworks. Next, please. So then we looked at, how businesses are feeling about the recovery coming out of the pandemic. Business levels are the same or better than pre-pandemic levels for 80% of member businesses. We're seeing this all over the country, though, that staffing is below pre-pandemic levels because of a challenge in filling vacancies. Can you go to the next slide, please? Members are facing a variety of challenges. We can see here that, we asked people to rate how important each of these things are, and then we made them choose one that's the most important. And so you can see here that, in order of importance, we had transportation to and from the island, the cost of visiting, the importance of domestic travelers returning, workforce issues, the investment in tourism promotion, sports and entertainment, international travelers were rated very important by a third, and meetings and conventions was 24%. But when we asked people what was the most important concern, the cost of visiting was cited by a plurality of 32%. The next most important was domestic travelers. Thank you, go ahead. And then issues with the most significant were cited by 1/3 of members, and those are the quality of the internet, workforce housing, cellular service top the list of significant issues. Crime and safety are not seen as having a big impact on Catalina Island businesses. Next slide. We asked about the impact of COVID safety measures, both in a positive question and a negative question. And so you can see here that local COVID-19 measures were not considered harmful to local businesses, but were also not viewed as having a positive effect on influencing visitors or customers to frequent businesses. Next slide. Only 1 in 4 members of Love Catalina agree that tourism promotion for Catalina Island is underfunded. Although there is recognition for the benefits of tourism, and little opposition to attracting more visitors, concerns about housing prices are putting downward pressure on tourism sentiment. In other words, tourism sentiment is very high, with the exception of issues concerning housing prices. Most members do not feel that Catalina's occupancy levels are low compared to competing destinations. This is despite industry reports and numbers that would suggest that Love Catalina is behind the competitive set in occupancy levels. Next slide, please. As I said before, we showed the advertising and to gain some reactions. 82% had recalled seeing advertising prior to taking the survey. 2/3 had a positive reaction, and only 2% had a negative reaction. Next. And again, with the video ads, 48% of participants recalled seeing these ads. More than half had a positive reaction, and only 6% had a negative reaction. Next, please. Okay, so we've provided some of the open-ended comments here that you can look at later, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. All right, are there any questions?
I was just trying to read some of these.
We were just reviewing some of the comments. Sorry for the silence there.
Yeah.
I don't know that I have any questions. Does anybody?
No, it's a lot to digest.
I just thought it was interesting. They talk about the cost of visiting is so expensive, but the boats are full. The hotels are full, the vacation rentals are full. So it doesn't seem to be bothering somebody.
I think it's encouraging to see a lot of the things. The one thing that I did notate was the sidewalks and roads, which of course, she's right, it always is an issue for everybody, but also makes you consider, you know, where are we putting some of that money and making sure that it's working. I think it's being worked on currently, so. It's encouraging. I think the majority of it's encouraging though, which is nice to see.
Sure.
Yeah.
Jim, did you want to make any comments?
First of all, just to publicly acknowledge Smari and Stephanie for their incredible work on our behalf and their willingness to let us undertake such a broad swath. She mentioned it was unusual to do both, you know, your second homeowners and so on, and that was something our board felt strongly about, and so we intentionally went forth trying to get that wide sample. And then finally, to reassure you that the results of this outreach will be incorporated into our work plan for the year ahead.
Oh, so you're going to be cleaning our streets?
We're going to be continuing to participate in all of the community cleanup events, just like we have been as a staff, and I've been out with you doing some of those, so we will continue doing that as well.
Thank you.
I'm no good at filling potholes, sorry, Bob, you don't want me to do that. So.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. Stephanie, did you have anything else you would like to add?
Oh, I didn't. I mean, just in closing, I mean, I would reiterate that, you know, I was impressed by the scope of, you know, interest and the dedication to making sure that this was very well publicized, giving as many people as possible a chance to participate. And it was a pleasure to be able to do this work with all of you, and hope to get to come and see it and see you all in person someday.
That would be awesome. All righty. Well then.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Any questions, or is there anybody on your machine, Devin, that has any comments?
No comments.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, and thank you, Jim. Okay, now we have our consent calendar.
Okay, for first we have seeking approval of the minutes from August 2nd, 2022 regular council meeting. And we have the approval of total expenditures on our warrants for July 25th, 2022 through August 5th, 2022, totaling $935,457.06. Our continuing findings to continue to hold remote teleconference virtual council meetings pursuant to Assembly Bill 361, asking council to determine the COVID-19 state of emergency as proclaimed by the governor still exists and has been considered by City Council in deciding to continue to have teleconference meetings, and that state and local officials have imposed or recommended measures to promote social distancing in connection with COVID-19, and that as a result of the COVID-19 emergency, meeting in person would present imminent risks to the health or safety of attendees. We are seeking to adopt an ordinance of the City of Avalon amending Chapter 9-7.10A02 of Title 9, Planning and Zoning of the Avalon Municipal Code relating to temporary use permits. And we have our request for to authorize the city manager to execute an agreement with MRC Smart Technology Solutions for a 60-month lease and service agreement with a Xerox Ultalink color multifunction printer copier. That our current copy contract expires in November, and we have to give them a 60-day notice of what we're going to do. That's why it's being brought to you at this time. Finally, on the consent calendar, we have a resolution supporting broadband infrastructure. We're asking council to adopt a resolution supporting efforts to expand or develop broadband infrastructure for the benefits of the city of Avalon, of the citizens of the city of Avalon and Santa Catalina Island.
Great. Does anybody want to pull anything? No, if not, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve items 1 through 6.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, moved and seconded. Call for the vote.
Councilmember De La Rosa?
Aye.
Councilmember Lavelle?
Aye.
Councilmember Schickling?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Ponce?
Aye.
Mayor Marshall?
Aye. I guess this is why we need a new copier.
Yeah.
Yeah. To demonstrate, illustrate the point.
Just to make the point, correct.
Yeah. Item 7.
Under general business, we have one item, that's item 7. At this time, we would like to introduce and waive all readings of an ordinance repealing and replacing Title V, Chapter 5, Article 13 of the Avalon Municipal Code regarding noise. We ask council to consider the revised noise ordinance, and if consensus, introduce and waive all further readings of an ordinance repealing and replacing Title V, Chapter 5, Article 13 of the Avalon Municipal Code regarding noise. For council's information, I just wanted to bring this to your attention. This is something that that we've been working on for a little while as we got into the spring and summer and progressed. The number of noise complaints has increased significantly throughout June and July. We have clusters of areas, residential areas that are more impacted than others. And as I've talked with people on this, some it's not on their radar at all. Others it affects when they eat their dinner, when they go to bed, how loud they have to have their TV on in their house, whether or not they can have their windows open at home or not. It has a significant impact on their day-to-day living. So recognizing the community that we are, that live music, live entertainment is a part of many events. We tried to create something that's going to work for all involved. And if I could just, Matt, I think I'm not sure if I'm getting the right thing. Okay, here we go. So the considerations of the noise ordinance that we wanted to try to incorporate was, as I indicated, a balance of resident, business, visitor experiences, all of which are different, all of which are hard to get on the same level of what people expect. We wanted to specifically address amplified music. We have a number of different amplified music sources that come at everybody, whether it's bars or restaurants that have it, or special event concerts that we have. The information that I have is the concerts are not the negative impact. People know those, they're advertised, they're a handful of times a year, they're at a location, they're a destination. With those events that are put on, the one Jim mentioned this weekend will only be the second one that they're putting on, I believe, this summer, in addition to some that we've had around holidays. Those are not the biggest impact, but they would also be covered by this noise ordinance. In this, we establish a variance process. We understand that we can't cover everything in one piece of legislation, so we have a process where somebody can ask for a variance from that noise ordinance for special circumstances that can be considered. And very important in this, we wanted to come up with something where we could actually regulate and enforce it. It becomes difficult when the current noise ordinance that we have on the books is based upon a decibel meter reading from a certain distance and who enforces that. Oftentimes this happens on weekends when code enforcement is not working. The sheriff's office has a number of other things going on. It becomes difficult to enforce that noise ordinance. What this does will give us both the financial incentive and the ability to simply not issue the permit to have the event if a violation occurs. We feel that rather than go down and fine somebody and give them an infraction where they could get a $150 fine and do it again, that's just simply a cost of doing business that can be factored in. If we fine them more significantly, or simply say you violated the permit on 3 or 4 occasions, therefore we're not going to issue your permit or revoke your permit, there's no issue in the next time it happens of whether or not the music was too loud from a certain distance, and they're just not allowed to have it, period. We feel that this gives the city better leverage and better ability to handle this, and hopefully encourage the business owner to comply. So that what we've done is created noise districts, as you can see, and they're color coded on the map, the yellow being predominantly residential, the light pink predominantly commercial, we have the purple mixed land use, and then we recognize the sensitive noise districts, that being the hospital, churches, and schools. The idea is to recognize the different expectations of noise in all of these districts, and we feel that we do that with these by establishing these noise districts going forward. And each noise district will have its different allowed amplification of the music. For example, in a residential district, there will be no amplified music permitted after 8 p.m. in District 1. Our anticipation is that this will cover the short-term rentals, the Airbnbs that will play music on their outside decks. And keep in mind that all of this is outside music. It's not inside. So it's outside amplified noise, and it can't be heard off that property after 8 p.m. The districts 2, 3, and the waterside permit, which would cover the harbor and Descanso Bay, would cover boats that would have music, amplified music, and then the commercial districts. These would be allowed essentially Sunday through Thursday till 9 p.m., Friday and Saturday cut off at 10 p.m. Permits would be required. Permits give us that flexibility and that control that I indicated earlier, and the ability to control various aspects of it. We would ask a part of the permit process would be a sound impact plan to give us better understanding of how each location is going to impact residential neighborhoods primarily. And that sound impact plan would be maintained by the city and something that we would look at and revise as needed. The music may not exceed 70 decibels at location of the sound monitoring space, which is going to be 50 feet from the location, and that'll have to be marked at each location so we know where it is. Currently it's 60 decibels at 150 feet. And just what I have learned going through this process, the difference between 60 and 70 decibels is double. 70 decibels is double what 60 decibels is from a noise standpoint. So getting closer, 50 feet away, and 70 decibels we feel gives the business owners the opportunity to still have outdoor music, and keeping in mind they can have acoustic music without amplification that is not impacted by this ordinance. And very importantly, it will identify the responsible party for us, because quite often we get there and we hear, well, it's not us, it's the band turned it up, or this happened or that happened. It's difficult to determine who's actually responsible for the level of the music, but in this ordinance we define it. And finally, just briefly, I've already hit on it, the violation process. We talk about, it's a first violation will be a notice and a warning. Second, we start with fines, all the way up to a fourth violation, which will result in revocation ability to pull the special use permit, or if it is a transient rental, the ability to pull that license for a 6-month period if that applies. We've taken some time with this and really looked at other municipalities' ordinances they have in place, and we feel that this gives us a lot of the leverage and flexibility that we need. It gives us the ability to control if somebody has an emergency. We can issue the variance. For example, if a construction company needs to work on Sundays or after hours for emergency, we have the ability to do that. We recognize that some of our locations, for example, Descanso Beach Club has weddings. It's very easy to determine from them. They'll have the band in the same location. We don't need them to submit a sound plan for every event, because one will cover that location. And we can work off that, and I've already talked to them, and we'd be more than happy to work with them. This isn't about getting fees for the application fee. This is about controlling the noise. So we're not looking just to generate fees each time, and we'll work with them about having an overall fee that may cover their season. So if there's any questions from council, I'll be happy to try to answer those.
Yeah, I'm curious about places like the karaoke at the El Galleon and the Chi-Chi Club. I mean, those are indoors.
Indoors.
But.
Would not apply.
But so how do we control them? Because when I used to own my restaurant, we got in trouble for our music being too loud, and it turned out to be music coming from the El Galleon going down the street.
Yeah, and that's why, I mean, we see that there's a big difference between, and this is outdoor amplified music, because the outdoor amplified music, what we find with the way, the structure of our community, that being essentially going up the canyons, it keeps the music in and it reflects it and kind of funnels it to many of our residential areas. We don't see that on the front street, indoor locations, the music goes out. It really does not impact the residential like we've seen.
Sometimes it has impacted the hoteliers, the people in the hotels.
It can.
And I don't know that we've gotten any complaints from like Jerry Dunn in years, but he was one that was with the Vista Del Mar and Snug Harbor, it was a problem.
Right, and the Glenmore used to have problems,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
so, I don't know.
Well, okay, and talk to me about the hours. You said 8 o'clock?
8 o'clock would be for the the residential, the short-term rentals.
Okay.
Would be 8 p.m. The commercial district would be 10 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays, 9 p.m. on the other days. It also limits it to those that they can't have it more than 4 times per week, a permit. So you can't have outdoor amplified music more than 4 days a week.
In a way, I think that's showing favoritism to the people that have indoor music, like Luau Larry's, if they want to have it 7 days a week. To me, that doesn't seem fair. I just have another comment. And you've done a lot of work with this, and I'm probably the only ones that thinking this way. I feel this is a knee-jerk reaction to a couple of places that have abused things, and so we're making all these other people go through all these hoops. And I guess my other question is, who's going to, if law enforcement's busy and they get a call, I mean, they're the ones that are we don't have code in the evening, so I don't even know how we're going to enforce it, because I know they really don't do anything with it now, and I don't know that they would change their tune and actually enforce something. But I just think, and I know you've spoken to the Island Company, and everybody under the planet has spoken to Martine, but I think Martine and the Island Company need to get their acts together and say, hey, this isn't working, you know, and the permit is only necessary because then I guess we can finally pull it, but I don't know, I think that place, so Pete's Snack Bar is a big problem. I don't know if there's any complaints about the Metropole when they have their music there, and they have guests in their hotels.
They get a ton from their guests. Yeah, because I know people that work there and they tell me that all the time.
Okay, so maybe those outdoors like that, maybe something, but I don't know, to do this whole big thing. It just, I don't know. I was happy to see the permit was such a simple permit process. That was very good.
Right.
It's almost just a half sheet. And I don't know. Go ahead, the rest of you speak up.
Well, this issue was brought to us last summer in regards to neighbors around Pete's. And if it took a year for us to get to this where it hasn't improved, then we need to do something. And I think this is very fair. At least we've modernized the noise ordinance for now, instead of just keeping it to something that was done in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a new century, and yeah, I have no objection to making the changes.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that, like I said, that we had neighbors who were upset with the noise last year, and it hasn't gotten any better.
Right.
So we need to do something.
Right. I agree, but I think it would, yeah. I just hate to see us have to go through all of this process. But, and then have we measured that 60 dBs at 50 feet, or 70 dBs at 50 feet? Have we tried that out at all?
I can say I have, personally.
Okay.
I've just, to get a feel for what that would be.
Yeah.
And I don't know where the city ever came up with 60 at the time they came up with it, but I mean, it's all, you know, you're picking a number and you're going with it. I mean, 60 decibels, if you look at it, is basically this conversation that's taking place right now would register. My speaking to you would be 60 decibels. So
yeah.
To do it and do it at a closer proximity, I think makes sense, because I have had the conversation of the 150 feet, 60 decibels. If you go from, take example Pete's, you could go 150 feet down the road and make sure there's a building in between you.
Right.
And it's fine, you can barely hear it. But if you go to the residential area 500 feet away, you can hear it clearly. So the 50 feet directly in front of the amplification, and it also gives us the ability to have the conversation with the business owner that if you want to put sound deadening walls, you know, just movable barriers behind the band, that might make a huge difference, and it gives them the ability to ask in the variance process and in the application process, we're going to do that, can we have it, and we can test that out and see if that makes a difference. That's all part of this that would give us that flexibility, because I've tried to have that conversation to see if they would buy those sound deadening panels and put them behind, and it just hasn't happened.
No, no.
So in developing this and your research, did you go to, say, Pete's and check what the levels are now?
I have, but and I can't say that I'm not using a calibrated decibel meter. I'm using a decibel meter that I think is
right.
purely inaccurate.
But is it like way off the charts or what?
It's pretty far off the charts. Yes.
Oh.
Yes, it's significantly higher than 60 decibels at
or
their
70.
location.
And
Yes.
Mary, there's been instances this summer, I live in Eucalyptus Gardens. If I can hear the music coming from Pete's, then the music's loud.
Oh, I hear you, definitely.
Okay. Okay, well then, while we're picking on everything, let's pick on quinceañeras.
But I agree with you,
the
Annie.
noise that come out of Tremont Hall and the Sand Trap.
I hear the music out of Tremont Hall all the time.
I know, and then there's Sand Trap, and they have special events, so they would have to get a permit if somebody was going to have a wedding at there. Yeah.
For amplified sound, yeah.
Yeah, for amplified sound.
And so would the Metropole or Pete's, would they need to get a permit for each band?
No.
No.
No, we would ask for, as long as they're placing their band in the same location, and we have a plan for where the location of the band is, then they have to comply with the time and the hours and the number of times per week. Now, they would have to submit, and we would work with them rather than submit one every single time. You know, we would try to get something that would cover a period of time, whether it's weeks or a month. We would work with that, but the goal is it can't be more than 4 times. It has to be within hours restriction, and it has to have the conditions that we agree upon.
Okay.
So let's say the Island Company is going to have a 2 or 3 day celebration out at Descanso, like I don't know what they have. They have something that's a couple
The wine
of days.
mixer is 2 or 3 days. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
okay,
Yeah.
something like that. So they would do one for that, but then let's say, like they have a lot of weddings, as long as they can say we're going to be doing weddings between this month and this month.
Well, for example, right now we have the 10 p.m. restriction, right?
Right.
And they occasionally we will get requests to go beyond the 10 p.m. on a Saturday night, which you're allowed 10 p.m. in this ordinance too. So I think we've only had 3 this summer that have made that request. So there would only really be they'd have to have the band outside.
Right.
Oftentimes it's inside. And B, they'd have to be requesting to go beyond 10 p.m. to have to pull a permit.
Right.
So if this was in place at the beginning of the year, it would have only been 3 times.
I see, okay, and I totally understand. And when I was talking to the harbor master, he says there's really not a lot of complaints coming from the boat owners at Descanso so much because they've been better over the years, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Orrin, but they're now putting their music either towards the mountainside or up canyon,
Yeah.
and that's very helpful. But did you want to come on up and comment, Orrin?
I'm not sure what's changed. The speakers are still out to sea, so the boaters are still hearing it, but the culture of the complaints, the boating crowd is not seeming to mind at this point, and it may be because they shut down at an early enough time where it's not going into the dinner hour.
Oh, okay.
But that's been my observation.
Yeah. But when they have those big festivals that they have, when they have a couple thousand people out there, and those go a little later, I believe. Those don't seem to be, well, maybe they still break up at 10. I don't know. There's nobody from the Island Company here to talk on this.
Yeah, I can't really speak to the bigger events because it seems like some of the requests for those have been in the off season when we're not using the mooring area.
That's what you're saying.
Whereas peak season where we're using the mooring area, then we have to deal with, a lot more families out there that may become impacted by the noise coming from the beach.
Okay.
And the beach club, for the most part, they're done by 5, 6 o'clock
With
during the
their
day.
DJs, yeah.
And when they have their events, I can tell you, we've had very few complaints coming Descansa.
I know, yeah.
But speaking of the harbor, like, I think it was weekend before last, there was a boat out there that had a band on the boat, and they were fun. I mean, I was up at Karen Baker's house, and I could hear them, and we were having fun just hanging on her deck and stuff like that. So where does that fit in with all of this?
We have that covered. They can have one boat at one location, can have it a maximum of 2 times a week, I believe, and they still fall under the ordinance.
So that
but
boat
it's-
would have
it's
to
still allowed, but
apply?
they couldn't have it 5 nights in a row, but you can have it 2 times in a week.
Right,
Yes.
right. And so they just have to apply for the permit and stuff?
Right.
Oh, okay. And do they, does it matter if it's daytime or nighttime? It doesn't matter?
It matters potentially from the standpoint of how long you can go. If you wanted to go longer in the nighttime, you know, if you wanted to go past a certain hour.
Right, but this particular boat was like in the afternoon, and they started, it was like 3 to 5 or something like that?
Yes, so we had a couple of them. One we approved through the yacht club. They had a concert on the back deck. They did it a couple of years in a row, and it's been a big success.
Right.
But then the one you're speaking of, we might have shut down. They didn't ask for permission. They just had a party. And so there were so many spectators in the fairway, and that's our main goal, is to keep the fairways open. So.
Right, right. Okay, thanks, Orrin.
Matt, are you gonna say something?
The AC's broken back here, so
Oh, it's not too good here either.
I know. So that $283 for the permit.
That's for a variance. That's not for the, that's
for
it,
the-
that's if
just
you
for the
want to
variance.
challenge,
Just
yes.
for the variance, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
How much is the permit?
We would bring that to council. We do not have a permit fee on this because you approved all the permits, so if this passes, we would bring in the very near future a permit fee.
Okay, because, yeah, I read through it. I thought
That's
I-
just for
I
the
was-
variance.
So then, okay,
Depending
so
on
we're
that.
still, if everything goes right, we're a couple months away. Or a month away from something being enacted.
That's fair to say.
So-
But we want to get if council approves this, we would get the message out. We would send a copy of the draft ordinance as approved by council out to the businesses and start working with them.
Yeah, okay.
But I agree with Annie. I mean, yeah, I think that, I don't think it's fair not to let them do it 7 days a week. I don't think any of the places want to, but I don't think it does seem unfair,
I
and
think it
biased.
strikes a sense of moderation for the residents and the businesses to be
Sure.
able to both have that freedom. We had talked about this before and talked about limiting to certain nights only or to certain things. I appreciate the fact that this puts in place 2 different time sets, one for weekday, one for weeknight. After talking with Emma, I would even say maybe in some of the areas, we could even go to 8 o'clock instead of 9 o'clock, because having that extra hour of sleep for students is a big deal. I appreciate the city manager's work on this, and I think it is well thought out. I think it's much more easily enforceable. I think it's much more easy to kind of handle the people who can't seem to follow what the current ordinance is.
Right.
Both in residential areas and in commercial areas. And I think Michael's right. Everybody had a year plus to learn how to do it right. And if you can't figure it out, sorry.
Well, again, but there's
Way to do it.
only a couple of people that didn't do it
Yeah.
right. That's the,
I had a troublemaker in my class, and because of him, we couldn't go to see me in 3rd grade, and that's how it went. So you know what? Here you go. Here you
okay,
go.
again, let's go back to enforcement. Who's gonna enforce it? You're gonna call code out at night? I mean, they have the sheriffs have the DB meter.
I think that's a big part of what I like about this, is that we have difficulty with enforcement now. And the reason for that is we need somebody that has to go, mark out 150 feet, have a decibel meter, verify that it's in violation of the code. Now, if somebody doesn't have a permit, or the permit has been pulled, and they're having music, they're just done. There's no how loud it is or what time it is. It's just you can't have live music anymore. You have violated this. If this happens, they will have 3 bites at the apple before they have their permit pulled.
Well, that's my question. Who's gonna check to see that apple's been bitten 3 times?
We'll make sure we do that.
Do we need to make the cost of any permits allow for potentially additional staff on certain nights when there are going to be events, so that whether it's fire staff helping with additional enforcement through code, or potentially sheriff, to ensure that it covers the cost of those additional people to be on to cover that, like a part of that enforcement.
I mean, we can certainly look at that when we bring the permit fee to you. Our concern on the permit fee is we didn't.
It shouldn't be cost prohibitive,
Right.
which it could be if you
Right.
have that much amount of, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just trying to find some way to say we need to have someone enforce it and make it enforceable.
Right.
I assumed that was going to be happening already after our discussion last year, and because of a number of reasons, it's been challenging at best to have that occur.
Right.
So there needs to be a plan for that, I think, before we can, not before, but in conjunction with moving forward with this.
And then we have Officer Grayson Klein.
Yes, ma'am. If you guys get this going, I will sit with the city manager and you as well. The sheriff's department has a 12-page directive regarding how we deal with disturbances in which we cannot be a victim of loud music. So I will sit with Mr. City Manager, we'll go over our directive and come up with something that can be enforced. And if it's something that goes into our new ticket machines that we have, and we can issue citations there, and we have the areas marked out where we're measuring from, yes, we have decibel meters. And once that's all set, we can help enforce this as well.
That would be awesome.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Because you're getting a few more hours of law enforcement, right? Another half person or whatever we're getting.
Absolutely.
And you kids are you're 24/7.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are just certain guidelines that we have to follow regarding these disturbances.
Well, I
Not
saw
sure
the
that-
one thing I got from Captain Badali, and it was the county one, but it's like, okay, that's the county one, but you're working for the city.
Right.
So that was the problem I had with what he gave me about a noise disturbance, that whole business,
Right.
yeah.
And we'll sit down and we'll make it happen.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Rick.
The only other point you brought up too, Annie, I want to say is I agree that with a lot of the indoor locations that have amplified sound indoors and may have open windows, open doors, or windows that are old enough that they don't help insulate sound, where I think we need to bring back a separate or secondary portion of this to address that, have them play by the same rules in terms of enforcement, and make
I
that
agree.
happen.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because it's good for them to be indoors. The majority of them, I think, do well. Like, I know the Galleon will close windows and doors once they get to a certain time of night, so that way it tries to not impact people around them, but it still impacts people around them. They're still gonna hear it, but.
Right. And it doesn't have to be, okay, so talk to me again about the people that have music coming from their homes.
So as you know, we've had a number of complaints about the short-term rentals of people having parties on decks or whatever, being loud next to, residents. So that has also been a difficult issue to enforce. So this, we've shortened it up to 8 p.m. Currently, they were, I believe, the 10 p.m.
Right,
that everybody
okay.
else was under, and also limited that the sound cannot, if it can be heard, you can still have it after 8 p.m. as long as it's not being heard off-site.
And
Okay.
can I give you an example of somebody, a vacation rental playing their music? We had an illegal rental behind us. They got noise complaints about them. They called me to the Seacrest so that we could stand on our deck and yell at them to open the door or to come down and open the door. Their music was so loud, they couldn't hear us yelling at them.
Yeah.
They couldn't hear the deputies knocking on the door. And they just, kept
Right.
getting in and out of the hot tub,
Right.
and the music's
Right.
just blasting. And it's
Right.
like 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, so,
So if I could, just quickly.
Yeah.
So what this would do, we can cite both the actual person that is playing the music and the homeowner in addition. So they would both, same thing, they'd be notified with an infraction with their first violation. We'd be able to keep a track of that.
Okay.
And subsequent violations would obviously go to the homeowner because the person's here and gone, okay? They're probably not gonna violate it twice, but they can be cited.
okay. So, and right now, the vacation rentals, but if I have a noisy one next door, I'm supposed to call the person on the manager of that property.
There's,
That will stay the same, but then.
that'll stay the same. There's still the notification of who the the on-island property manager will still be contacted.
Okay,
But the homeowner ultimately could
Okay.
be responsible.
okay, okay.
I wanted to see what your guys' thoughts were on the instructions. It says, for any person seeking a variance shall file an application with the city manager, minimum of 10 working days prior to the commencement of the requested activity. I want to see what your thoughts were on maybe upping that up to 2 weeks. My reason being was, I want to have the applicant to have time to, notify all the residents, because I know they have to do that now, correct? It's on there that they have notified the residents?
If it's a variance,
Oh,
If it's just a
okay.
variance.
if they
Is
go through the
there-
variance process.
Is there any way that we could just, I mean, I don't know how to do that, depending on, I guess the district, that they would still have to notify the residents?
I mean, if you're just going to have a permit and be within compliance and not asking for a variation of that. I mean, I can tell you the residents that are affected by this are paying attention already to what's going on with this. They're gonna be aware. I've had phone calls already of people, saying they want something done, if this is gonna help, if this is gonna work, they're all for it. But we can certainly look at that.
Okay. I just wanna make sure that the residents had enough time to voice themselves if, appeal it or whatever the case may be. Not saying that, that's always going to be the case, but I wanna make sure that the residents also have a voice in this.
So on the variance, Joe Public wouldn't know, because they're just gonna give that variance to him. It's not gonna come before us.
Now, the variance would be, so they could ask for a permit.
Right.
And if the permit is gonna limit them to, for example, say 10 o'clock and they wanna go till 11 o'clock, that would be a variance to that. So that would have to be notified to the residents and mailed out, and we have a sample letter that goes to all of them, notifying them of that.
Do we have a timeline by when they have to notify the residents?
I mean, I believe that it has to be notified at the time the variance is, the application is submitted. Now, whether or not, what our feedback time is, I'll take a look at that.
72 hours.
72 hours?
72 hours.
Okay.
Okay, so let's say I rent Pete's Snack Bar, and I'm gonna have a band and I wanna go late. So, we're notifying the whole town or just those people?
Right.
Who are we notifying?
The variance process is the residents that are within, what's our distance, Devin?
Actually, in this ordinance, we have a special rule for variances, because this isn't a land use, this is a personal use, and this ordinance provides that all residents whom the city managers determines will be adversely affected by the noise shall be notified.
Oh, wow.
So we
Well,
don't
that's
have
going all the way up to the end on Mount Ada.
Could be.
Yeah. Well, now I can see why you're gonna charge $283. That's gonna be. And then, okay, so you tell them, but they still will get the variance, or people could complain and they don't get the variance.
They might not get the variance, correct?
Okay.
Right, because it says the city manager shall balance the hardship of the applicant, the community, or other persons not granting the variance against the adverse impact on health, safety, so he doesn't, so if it's ridiculous,
I
you can
know.
say, yeah, no, that's not gonna work, sorry, bye.
Yeah, and nothing will be that ridiculous, but I don't wanna be sitting in your seat.
But if it's reasonable, if it's just, if it's a major special occasion, graduation or something like
Right,
that, and they
right.
wanna go an hour longer,
Yeah.
then it's his discretion, and then, you have to
Right.
notify.
Okay.
But, and what did you say it said, Sarah, 10 days?
If we could up that more to like 2 weeks, I just wanna make sure everyone is notified.
10 working
I don't-
days.
I think it's 2 weeks, because it's 10 working days, right?
Oh, okay.
But maybe we can, I don't know, you could say 15 if you wanted to,
Devin has suggested 15 too.
yeah. Because then it gives an extra week of time and.
Well, I'll be curious to see who's listening to this evening.
Right? I forgot my phone at home, so it'll probably.
And again, our goal is not to shut down live music. I mean,
Exactly.
we really wish we didn't have to do this,
Yeah.
right? You
Yeah.
know, we wish that everybody could have made this, your prior legislation work, but it's just not working.
Right, but you know, I don't understand, I don't know who decided that music has to be earball bleeding loud in order to be enjoyed. So,
Exactly.
you know, I'm glad that we are not coming from the position of, well, we just need to stop this altogether. And so I'm glad that we're working and coming up with I believe this is a pretty credible solution.
Yeah.
And I, for one, also, because I got a bad ear, so it's hard for me to converse when I go out to live music, because, you know, so it might help. Sorry, Vern.
So at some point,
So do we want a motion for?
yeah,
Devin, do we have any comment?
No, I just refreshed. No comments.
okay, there will be a very simple fact sheet that goes out instead of people getting a copy of the ordinance.
Yes, and we feel that the people that will be applying for the permit will be limited, right? I mean, it's not
Right.
gonna be hundreds of people doing this, it's gonna be people that are interested in having live music,
Right.
and we'll work with them.
Yeah, okay. Alrighty.
Well, then on that note, I will introduce and waive all readings of an ordinance repealing and replacing Title 5, Chapter 5, Article 13 of the Avalon Municipal Code regarding noise.
I'll second.
Okay.
Did you guys want to entertain the 15-day, or do you want to leave it at 10?
I would like to, but up to you guys. as
Well, what do you think from a administrative perspective and all of that, city manager?
I mean, I think our goal at 10 was to try to move this along as quickly as possible and not
Right.
necessarily inconvenience the applicant. But, I mean, our goal will be to react quickly when we get one and notify if we have.
We can always try it at 10, and if we find issues with it,
Bring it back.
amend it,
Change it back.
do it to 15.
Right.
I'm good with that.
Okay, there's a
Thank you.
motion,
Thank
there was a second?
Yes.
Yes. And is there any comments, Devin, on your computer?
No comments.
Okay, and Jim, did you want to comment? Okay, let's call for the vote.
Councilmember De La Rosa?
Aye.
Councilmember Lavelle?
Aye.
Councilmember Schickling?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Ponce?
Aye.
Mayor Marshall?
Aye. If there's no,
So just the request to bring back the indoor amplified sound at a
at
future
some
meeting?
point, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because we are winding down, so we probably have some time on that one, I would think, too, but.
Well, and it's just good to
No.
get everybody to play by the same rules.
Right.
No, I definitely
Yeah.
agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, then,